Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Ridin the Storm Out. Of course, I am Paul Blair, and it's my joy and privilege to be working alongside my partner in crime here, Pastor Dan.
Emphasize crime.
Partner in crime, criminal defense.
Yes.
In fact, no better experts.
No, in fact, what we're doing to this church is a crime.
And we've only just begun.
Yeah.
You think we got a rap sheet now? You wait a little while.
See, what did Doc say in Tombstone? I've only begun to defile myself.
We've only just begun to make these people regret the decision
let me
of breaking
tell you,
us on here. That's
in
right.
fact, if we let them vote, which we will not do,
Absolutely
we're
not.
out.
Nope.
Yeah.
We're benevolent dictators. Once we're in power,
exactly
it's
right. Yeah.
Well, we're talking about something that's amazing, Dan.
Yeah.
Something I never thought we'd see. You know, growing up, of course, I know you were we're basically the same age. You know,
Yeah.
I was the tail end of the baby boomers.
Yeah.
And Dad was a veteran from World War II, and my dad was the kind of guy that at 16, when Pearl Harbor was bombed, he went and lied about his age and was serving in the South Pacific.
I'm lying about my age right now.
Yeah. But he was serving in the South Pacific, fighting the Japanese Empire at 16.
At 16.
And then came back and found a wife and got married and raised a family. And growing up in Edmonds, in the 60s, I mean, it was all, you respected police.
Yeah, sure.
I remember as elementary school, we would go down to the fire department at least once a year to visit the fire department, go down to the police department, and we loved the police officers.
Oh, yeah.
We loved the fire department. They were our hometown heroes.
When we used to hear the letters FBI, we thought, those are the good guys.
Good guys at one time.
Yeah, Department of Justice, they're going to make sure that justice is done.
Or so we thought.
We thought.
And now we've flipped upside down. In fact, you actually nailed a verse just a minute ago. Quite frankly, it's not of our creation. It's a biblical.
All right. I remembered kind of the verse. You remembered where it was.
Yeah.
Isaiah 5:20. Woe to those that call good evil and evil good.
And that's where we're at now.
Yeah. In fact, Newt Gingrich has just released a brand new book about how to stop big government socialists. In fact, that's almost the title. And what he's talking about is the idea, Paul, that we live in a culture today that actually glorifies evil.
Yeah.
And vilifies good.
Yep.
So you've got the January 6th committee.
Yep.
They're trying to make something out of nothing. But then you have like the Hunter Biden story that's just out this week.
Yes.
That is something which the press is making into nothing.
And it's even more than just being out this week. We got the January 6th.
Of course, you're right.
Which were the charges that they have leveled against these January 6th individuals are trespass.
Yeah, misdemeanors at best.
Misdemeanors. And many of them have been denied due process now for a year and a half.
Some of them in solitary
confinement.
Yeah.
Then you flip the page, and we've got Hunter Biden. And it's not like this just came up last week. This has been in the news for 2 years.
Yes.
And not only have they not reported the facts, but they have lied about the facts.
And have actively covered it up.
So now, rather than the media being watchdogs of liberty on behalf of the people, the media is now complicit with the criminal events that are going on.
Yeah, and it's like they feel compelled to cover up for and to defend actual criminals. I mean, the latest video that's out on Hunter, as I know you and everybody else knows, it shows him with a prostitute that I think he paid like $10,000. But he is on video weighing crack cocaine. Now, what do you think the media would be doing if there was a picture of Donald Trump Jr.
Oh, my goodness.
weighing out crack cocaine?
Or wasn't the whole fable about President Trump himself being that he was hanging out with some Russian prostitutes?
Yeah.
Well, here is the president's
being on a bed
son.
that Obama had slept in.
And now you got the president's son literally paying prostitutes with dirty money,
and
handling drugs.
Yeah, and this is not the only video of him with prostitutes. In fact, one of the news stories that's out this week about Hunter is that someone was trying to determine which prostitutes to solicit for him. And one of the things that he says is, well, he wants people who do not defend evil like him. He wants people that defend good, and he doesn't want yellow prostitutes, meaning Oriental.
Really? That's what he said.
Yeah, he doesn't want any yellow ones.
Maybe it's the connection with Donald Trump and the Russians peeing in the bed that got him with the yellow process. I don't know.
Maybe so, but here's the deal. Who did they constantly call a racist?
Oh, I know.
Donald Trump.
I know.
But here Hunter Biden is, and somebody says, well, that's the president's son. He can't be responsible. Well, my gosh, there's enough evidence right now that ties directly to Joe Biden, the president, that would get any other conservative president impeached immediately.
And the accusation with President Trump was a tit-for-tat deal with Russia.
Oh.
What we see actually happening is a tit-for-tat deal with China through Hunter Biden, connected directly to the current occupant of the White House. I can't say president, the current, the vice president who's currently occupying the White House.
Exactly.
And nobody in the Department of Justice, nobody in the FBI.
No, there's nothing here to see.
Cares. In fact, the media doesn't even cover it.
No. And on top of it, here's another story that's out. 1 million barrels of oil from our strategic reserve. Okay, now that is basically created for moments of national crisis, primarily war. Okay, now I know that we've tapped it before for other things, but they were considered national emergencies, not the results of really bad policy that has created inflation that's running away, and we've shut down all of our oil exploration, and so oil has skyrocketed. Now here's the deal. Those 1 million barrels went to China via the company that Hunter Biden is connected to.
What a coincidence. I wonder if there's any smoke there or any connection.
Well, none other than he keeps calling in emails his dad, who happens to be the president, the big guy, has to get 10% off the top. And we have now a recording of Joe Biden leaving a voicemail on Hunter's phone saying that it looks like because of this new article, you're in the clear. What more do we need?
Well, the sad thing is that this is not an accident. It's all been by design. Of course, they're trying to just rip us apart internally. We saw the rioting a year ago with the Black Lives Matter rallies just being mostly peaceful.
Mostly peaceful, even though behind that person giving that report was stuff on fire.
We have January 6th. People that we have video, most of the video they have not released.
Right.
But we have seen enough video of police and
motioning them to come in,
letting them in, opening the doors, welcoming them in.
Yes.
That is not trespassing. When somebody invites you in, that is just accepting an invitation.
I saw some video the other day of that very thing. Now, we could argue that those guys should have been smart enough not to go in.
Yeah, they fell for it.
But still, the police officer is standing there, motioning them, holding the door open for them. I've led tours to the Capitol in D.C. Buddy, you can't even get in that place unless you are sponsored by a congressman or a senator.
I've never been able to access the Capitol, even going in to see someone there, as you just said.
Right.
I've never been able to get in that easy.
No, just walk in the door.
You got to go through the metal detector. You got to empty your pockets, all this stuff. They were just welcoming these people in.
Well, today at the Capitol, if you want to tour the Capitol building, you have to go through the visitor or the guest center and go through orientation and all of this stuff. And then you are placed in a tour group led by a park official, and you're in there with all of these armed guards. What in the world? Yeah, so exactly. So we're living in a time when literally you can get away with over 50,000 emails and erase those with bleach bit, which is a kind of process that you clean off a hard drive in a computer. You can take your cell phones and crush them with hammers. Of course, nothing
Hillary
here
Clinton,
to see.
Nothing to see here. That's right.
Exactly. Yeah, and people are now saying, well, she might run for president again. Paul, you and I wouldn't be able to see enough sunlight to run for president if we'd have done any of this stuff.
So what are we to do? What can we do? When we scratch our heads and we look at the federal level and we know that there's plenty of stuff out there. And by the way, if you did not see Tucker Carlson, watch the opening monologue on July the 10th. So whenever you're watching this, just go back. You can go to Fox News or Fox whatever, and I'm sure you can find the old episodes. Tucker Carlson, July the 10th. He lays out enough another laundry list of evidence against Hunter Biden and the big guy that was just released. Apparently, they found some files that they thought that they had hidden on the computer or tried to delete that they were able to recover. So even more evidence. But if you haven't seen it yet, you have to watch it. But Dan, what are we supposed to do? I mean, the Department of Justice is no longer on the side of justice.
You mean Merrick Garland is not going to do anything about this?
The Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI. I can remember watching the FBI, growing up with
Elliot Ness.
Yeah.
Getting the bad guys.
Yeah, it's supposed to be on the good guys team. Now we see that they're identifying parents that complain against LGBTQ being taught to their kids. Or
they're terrorists.
They're potential homeland terrorists. By the way, whenever they put these red flag laws up there, you can rest assured that the things that are going to red flag them is if you are a conservative Christian or a Republican,
well, then you're
or a
insane,
Trump
obviously.
Yeah.
You believe in a 6-day creation.
You're on the red flag list.
Yeah,
That's
of
exactly.
course.
Well, how do we approach this? No, it's a big, obviously, without the Lord. This is a big journey.
Yeah.
But where should we begin as individuals living in Edmond, Oklahoma, or wherever we happen to be living?
Well, I think the first thing is for all the church leaders and or pastors that we're speaking to, these guys need to be talking about this from their pulpits. Now, I'm not suggesting that they turn their pulpit into a Tucker Carlson program, but like you and I do, we'll take some current event and we'll work it in to a message where it fits, and we'll bring a biblical perspective. So I think that they could take any of the current information that's just out this week. As you said appropriately, there's years worth of this stuff on Hunter and the big guy. But you could take what's happened this week and then say, now, what does the Bible say about covering up evil, not speaking out about that which is evil? So I think that'd be a good place to start.
Yeah. Justice doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor. There's supposed to be just administration of the law.
Now, you're talking about social justice?
No, just biblical justice is all we're concerned about.
Oh, so there's only one kind of justice?
Yeah. By the way, there's only one truth too, and that's there's not gay truth,
not your
straight
truth,
and
my
black truth, and white truth. There's just the truth, who is the truth, the way, the truth in the life. But we're literally you're all over it. We literally, the Bible says that the purpose of the civil government is to punish evildoers and to protect those that are obeying the law, that we may live peaceably in all godliness.
Right.
So we have flipped that upside down. You just nailed Isaiah 5. You read Isaiah 3 and Isaiah 5, and you see what he was dealing with in 730 BC, basically. The same nonsense we're facing right now, where that which is right is wrong. So if you believe there's only two genders, you're wrong. If you believe that if you're born with certain equipment, you're a male because your biology says you're a male, well, you're wrong. If you trespass in the Capitol, then we're going to put you in the pokey for 18 months, and you're not going to have due process. However, if you burn down a city building because of a Black Lives Matter rally, we're going to bail you out. As a matter of fact, we're going to reduce bail.
In fact, if I'm the Vice President of the United States, I can actually participate in a bailout program for these crooks.
That's exactly right.
She most certainly did. You hear that on the news anywhere other than conservative news? Nada.
And pastors, we need to be the sons of Issachar. And the Bible is just as relevant today as it was 2,000 years ago. So every issue that we are dealing with today in our lost world has been dealt with biblically.
There's nothing new
under the sun. Yeah. Solomon, you have the wisdom of Solomon.
Hey, how about that? So I think that would be the first step that pastors can obviously do something about. Teach on this in your churches.
Yeah, make sure your congregations are well. Never abandon the truth.
No, that's exactly right. And make the truth relevant. The truth's always relevant. But make your sermons and your lessons relevant so that you take the current events and help your people to see it from a biblical perspective, which is, of course, a biblical worldview.
You know what, Dan? You hear people that talk about, our pastors say, well, I only preach the gospel. Well, really, I thought we're supposed to make disciples. I thought we're supposed to make Christ followers. And you think about it, you look at every one of the epistles. Every letter
those are the wives of the apostles?
Yeah, that's right. Every letter that Paul wrote to a church, or Peter wrote, or James, dealt with some critical issue.
Common everyday stuff.
Was facing that day. Everything from sexual misbehavior within the church, everything to how to handle, which was a big issue at their time, meats that were offered to idols. Who's supposed to take care of widows? What about a guy that refuses to work? all of that kind of stuff
Is dealt with.
from a biblical perspective.
So you're saying that's the gospel?
That's
too?
part of the gospel. It's exactly. It's to preach the whole counsel.
So it's not just John 3:16 every Sunday.
3:16. That's right.
No, that's exactly.
Only get
and
saved
you're,
once.
You're totally right.
Yeah. But our pastors are lost on this, but quite frankly, as we've seen from our Liberty Pastors camps, it doesn't take much to these pastors have their eyes open.
No, but here's another mistake that guys make. Well, my people know how to take the Bible and apply it to this. Ha, 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 hardy, har, har, har. They do not. We've lost that common understanding, at least in my experience, Paul, and we have to bring this back down and help them to connect the dots.
You know what? I think most people approach church as if it's all about me. I'm going to church so I can receive some 2 or 3 verses to encourage me and give me a daily devotional to get through this week.
Feel better about
rather
me.
than recognizing it's all about him and his story.
Oh my.
And we're supposed to be glorifying him in everything that we do.
You mean, so if I walk out of a worship service and say, well, I didn't get a thing out of that, I'm wrong? You mean we're worshiping him and not me?
Right. I didn't get anything out of that service because we weren't worshiping you.
How about that? So I think that's the first step. But then I think other steps would be that pastors need to not only lead by example. I mean, you've done it. You've run for office twice. I was unlucky enough to get elected, and that was a bad deal. And then I ran for governor. But I think pastors need to set the example in some way or another. I don't know that all pastors need to run for office, but lead out, but then get their people to run for city council. There's probably somebody sitting in their church, if it's not the pastor, who could run for mayor. Make sure that their local communities are adhering to the law and to the constitutional principle. Because a lot of them are not.
But I think what we've got to remember, and everybody needs to remember, is you look at the United States, and it's so big, so many people, it can be overwhelming.
It can.
So what do? Make a difference in what you can make a difference in.
It's that Nehemiah principle you're always talking about.
That's it. Nehemiah principle. They rebuilt the walls of Jerusalem. What was it, 52 days?
52, something like that.
A record number of days.
Yeah.
But every family took responsibility for their section of the wall. So
That's
pastors,
beautiful.
Community leader, church members, make a difference in your church. Make a difference in your precinct. Make a difference in your city community. Make sure that your district attorney isn't one of these George Soros-funded district attorneys.
Yeah.
Make sure that your mayor and city councilmen aren't woke, that they are absolutely out there for justice and not social justice. And make sure and defend your children. Get your kids out of public ed right away, and then you can go into it. I'm all for Christian school teachers, Christian school board members. But right now, what's being taught our kids? Well, they're not being educated.
They've jumped into the septic tank. We got to pull them out of there.
Yeah, that's it.
I've watched you, for instance, when you stood in front of our city council last year because the mayor had taken it upon himself without consulting anyone, including the city council, and declared June Gay Pride Month for Edmonds. And I don't know that had ever happened in Edmonds before.
Never have. No.
And I saw you. Of course, the place was filled with people from our church. But you were very respectful, but you were very stern in a biblical sense. And boy, you read the right act to those guys, but in a way that was a godly kind of deal. That's a prime example. In fact, can they go online and watch your presentation to the...
Yeah, in fact, I think if they go to our Liberty Pastors website, I think it's on Liberty Pastors.
See, so pastors are wondering, what could I do? That. They could do that.
Yeah, and if you want a copy of it, you can send us an email at our Liberty Pastors website, info@libertypastors.com or info@libertypastors.org, and we can respond to you. We just grabbed them all. We grab all the addresses.
Yeah, but buddy, I tell you, I was proud of you that night. And I tell you, when I was watching you read that, of course, you were doing more than read it. It was your statement and our church's statement to the city council and the mayor. You know what I had in my mind there?
What's that?
I had either Isaiah or Jeremiah. I mean, it's exactly what you were doing.
Yeah.
You were at the city gates, city council, the city elders, and you were declaring to them what they should already know. And they were hearing it in such a way they could not question it.
Well, you know what?
Man, that was fantastic.
Who is going to be God's prophetic voice in this day and age?
Well,
it's supposed to be us. Supposed to be us.
That's exactly right. And then look at how the church turned out. And when you were finished, they broke out into applause.
Yep.
And of course, then the mayor called them down.
Yeah.
But a few weeks before that, when the transsexuals and all those, he let them just clap and cheer.
Give me some applause. Give me some applause.
Exactly.
But
So
we did it. It's like, that's not proper
applause.
decorum.
No, that's exactly right. So what do we need to do? Run one of your members for mayor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Run for mayor, run for city council, run for school board. And you know what? There was a book written that I recommend everybody read.
An idea. Go ahead.
Don't lose it.
I won't.
It was called Live Not by Lies. It was written by a guy named Rod Dreyer.
That's
It dealt
good.
with Christians living behind the Iron Curtain under communism. And one of the things he kept emphasizing, and I think it's great for us to all remember, don't turn loose of the truth.
Oh, that's right.
Refuse to live by lies. There's only going to be 2 bathrooms at Fairview Baptist as long as we're alive.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a men's and a women's. We're not having a third option. There's no such thing as third option. We're not going to turn loose of biblical truth. We're not going to turn loose of the truth.
No. Well, I just had a brilliant thought
What's
a
that?
second ago. You know, I do not live in Edmonds,
Right?
so I can't do a lot of things here. But there's a nice ring to Mayor Paul Blair.
I hate you now. Hey, after that last Senate run, I remember sitting in the Brahms down here. In fact, it was on my old phone. I recorded it. We're sitting in the Brahms down here about a mile and a half from the church.
Yeah.
I remember sitting there having a hamburger when we were out knocking doors one day, and I told my wife, Cindy, I said this. I said, I will never, ever, 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 ever run for office again. I made that promise to her. I can't possibly.
I seem to remember hearing this guy who said he heard the Lord say, "Who will we send, and who will go for us?"
There's Dan. Send Dan. Yeah. Isaiah said, there's Dan. Send him.
Send that moron. He's stupid. He'll do
He did it once. He'll do it again.
Yeah, it's like Mikey. He'll eat anything. Well, but you've lived it out,
Yeah,
Paul,
yeah.
and I've tried to do the same. Our people could never say, in any honesty, well, you guys are telling us to do this and you haven't done it. We have too. And I think that's critical for these guys to remember.
And if we don't stand, who is? I mean, we're talking about the future of our children and grandchildren is at stake. Somebody's got to stand up for them. And who is it going to be if it's not us?
Yeah.
So, men, you get your churches, you make sure that they are well equipped and they know biblical truth about every modern crisis that we face.
Yeah.
Because there's only one plan of salvation. It's only Jesus. That's the only way to get to heaven. But in our day and age, we don't have a cultural battle about the importance of circumcision or clean and unclean meats.
No.
But we do have battles about LGBT, transgenderism, wokeness, white nationalism. There's a lot of deception.
President's son weighing crack cocaine
President's
on
son
video
weighing crack cocaine.
stuff like that.
Connections to Red China. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's a
exactly.
lot of things that we do need to deal with.
That's
so
exactly
if
right.
we don't deal with them, then nobody will.
And we can do it at the local level. And man, we are the voice of the conscience. And I believe the conscience is the church through the Spirit of God. And the pastor is the voice in that conscience. And if the conscience goes silent, then the culture goes to hell. And that is exactly what's happening right now. So, boy, my word would be, pastors, get your people going.
Buddy, we'll close, I think, with this because I think we're out of time. You talk all the time about salt and light.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I do.
Give us the background about the salt, how good it is.
Yeah, well, salt retards decay, and light reduces darkness. So there's some alliteration for you. Retards, reduces. But you take the salt out, and what happens? You have runaway decay. You take the light out, and what do you have? Dominion of darkness. And when Jesus says you're the salt of the earth and the light of the world, notice he didn't say salt of the church, light of the church.
Yep.
Salt of the earth, light of the world. We've got to light up the world because the world is in darkness, and we cannot pass it off by saying separation of church and state, which we ought to talk about that sometime. We haven't done that much. We ought to do an official program on that. And then the other thing that we can't do is say, well, politics is a dirty business. Well, yeah, you take all the salt and light out, and it gets really decayed and dark in a hurry. That's what we've done.
You look at our culture, and we haven't been very effective in either, have we?
No, in fact,
So
Daniel...
that's an indictment on the church.
Yeah, Daniel Webster said, what makes men good Christians makes them good citizens. Well, we're lousy citizens, so does that reflect on our Christianity? I think it does. Adrian Rogers said God created human government. It's inconceivable he'd create it and then tell his people to stay out of it.
Not a better word to end on
That's
than that
right.
from Brother Adrian.
That's boy, you're right
Imagine
about
the
that.
view he has in heaven right now.
Oh, man.
Don't you know he's glad he's not still down here?
Yeah, I think he said, even I didn't think it could get that bad. I leave in a few years, look what happens. Well, man, as always, it's been great, Paul, to do this podcast with you. We hope that our listeners find something useful. Maybe we bring a different perspective onto it. We encourage all of you to stand for the truth. You pastors, lead your people. And until the next time,
God bless you.
see you guys soon.